Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and around here we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never, ever alone. See, here on Invisible Condition, we get it. We know life can be tough sometimes, okay? And we also know that there is always hope, always hope. So I just want to talk just for a second, just touch on a couple things here before we bring on our amazing guest, Matt. We have a nonprofit that we also run around here. It's called Hydro with Hope. And you'll probably see an ad for it during the show here. It is a nonprofit that benefits people living with a condition called hydrocephalus, which is my invisible condition. That's what I was born with, and resulted in 7 brain surgeries so far. So it's an interesting life with hydrocephalus. And so that's our nonprofit. So if you want to learn more about that, hydrowithhope.com, you can go check it out. And, honestly, if you're watching this and you get done with the show and you go, man, I love what they're doing there, and I want to get the word out about what I'm doing with my company through a commercial or through sponsorship or something, I'd love to talk to you. Please just let me know. Send me an email here at invisiblecondition@e360tv.com, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. I love working with amazing companies that have great missions. So bring it on. Okay, so today I'm very excited for you to meet Matt Potratz. Now, Matt is a former world-renowned snowmobile athlete turned motivational speaker and author. Love that. It's kind of a crazy transition, right? Don't we all have some of us have some pretty crazy, I know I did, into this. We'll talk about that later. After surviving a life-threatening avalanche in 2009 that left him in a coma for 41 days, Matt defied the odds, learned to walk, learned to speak, and rebuilt his life. Now, he inspires others to face adversity with resilience and faith. I love that. Faith, that's an important one. That's an important one. Through his speaking, his writing, and his mentorship, Matt shares powerful lessons about overcoming challenges and living with purpose. Awesome. Whether on stage or in print, Matt's real, humorous, and down-to-earth style leaves a lasting impact. I'm sure you guys will never forget Matt, encouraging others to see life struggles through a new lens and live better. I love it. New lens. That's what I had to do after a while. It's good, man. All right, let's bring Matt on here and kick this conversation off. Matt, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this. I really am. This touches down to earth for me, so.
Yeah, man. Me too. That's why I was so excited to have you. This is a big deal. This is, you've been through a lot. There's some really tough stuff in your past. But first, I have a question that I like to ask everybody. We're going to get to the story here in just a minute, but there is a question that I always ask every guest I have because I love the answer. I've never gotten a wrong answer before, so don't worry, it's easy. During those tough times, man, when you were going through it, and there's tough times still today, sometimes. During those tough times, how do you still maintain hope?
For me, I can't answer the question without saying my hope is in God. I've always considered myself a Christian and called myself that for the years, and I was going through the motions, but I didn't really find God in a real way until I went clear to the bottom. I had nothing, when I was completely powerless, laying in a comatose state, and came out of that coma, unable to even get out of bed, unable to feed myself or do anything for myself whatsoever. I really had to lean on God, and once I found Him, I realized you don't know God is all you need until God is all you have. And so that's my answer. Is I definitely have some strength and resilience, and I have a really, really bullheaded personality, and I get after it, but I do so because God gives me the strength to do it. So I have to give credit to God. So
I love that answer, man. You didn't know that God was all you had or all you need till it was all you had. I love that. That's a great statement. It's true, man. Once you, especially from the bottom, that's where that's where he likes to thrive, right?
Yep.
Just picking us up off the bottom. I love it. So speaking of that, take us back, man. Take us back to that day in 2009, and I know you said you probably don't remember everything, but what you remember, just take us back to that avalanche and tell us about that experience.
Well, March 1st, 2009 started out just another average weekend day. I was, at that point in time, I'd been riding into snowmobiles at a professional level for about 5 years for film companies that make the extreme backcountry movies, jumping off cliffs, climbing chutes, doing what people view as crazy. But we done it enough. It wasn't really crazy for us. It was a conditioned athlete type thing. We knew what we were doing, and we'd done lots of it. And so I kind of accidentally got known. I mean, I was just sharing my passion on camera and got known enough to get to ride with the top 5 guys in the world and get to ride in 7 different snowmobile motion pictures and be really well known, fully factory sponsored and everything else. It was incredible.
Nice.
But on March 1st of 2009, things changed a bit because I was set up to film a hill climb segment, and I set off a large avalanche, and the avalanche crushed me.
Hmm.
So leading up to that day, that morning, it was just like the average morning. We went through the trees and played and had a good time. We were in the group. The last memory I have of the day was the group was having a snack on a ridge top. Me and my buddy Tim were trying to repair a suspension problem my snowmobile was having, and that was 2 hours prior to the avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my last memory. I have nothing of the day except that. And so the group tells me that from there we went to an area called the Twin Lakes area where there's some chutes called the Twin Chutes, Upper Twin Chutes. And I was going to climb one of the Upper Twin Chutes, this pretty techie climb that I had done before. And that day I rode back to the camera and said, guys, I don't know why, but I just don't have a good feeling about today. Let's don't do this shoot today. Let's go to the Brundage side, which is Brundage Reservoir side, and ride that side. There's more trees and rocks and things like that to hold the snow in place because we were aware of somewhat compromised avalanche conditions. So we were going to be somewhat safe, I thought, So we went to that side, and I set up to climb the only big chute on that side, and they were filming, ready to roll, and I was climbing the chute and broke out of the top. Looked like I was going to make it, no problem. Even though the snow was deep, I was on a very powerful machine, and then 25 yards above me, the snow fractured 2.5 feet deep the entire mountain, and it just immediately, I mean, when it breaks off above you, there's nothing you can do. It just consumed me, and I have no memory of it, but it's on camera, so I can watch it happen. I was carried off a small rock bluff, and I'm not sure what damage that did, but then I got crushed into a really large tree and then buried below the tree. And so my friends, thank God, they really saved my life, keeping their cool and keeping their calm and getting after it with the rescue that day because I was buried and they knew they had to find me quick. And so they scattered across the mountain and they thought they got me right away. Like, hey, we got him. Check it out. He's over here. They saw my bright orange helmet sticking out of the snow.
Nice.
We rushed over to it, dug all the snow around it, and picked up an empty helmet, a fully intact tin strap, and no mat in sight. So obviously, they're freaking out at this point, going, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Because my chin strap apparently was just loose enough. The force of the blow at some point took the chin strap up my face, put abrasions up my face, and ripped the helmet right off my head. So the big concern was I'd struck a tree like a rag doll with no protection around my brain. Yeah. And so I was buried, and they knew they had to find me quick. So we wore avalanche beacons. I made a rule in my group about 2 years prior to the avalanche that nobody could ride with us in the backcountry without an avalanche beacon. I just made a rule. Everyone had to have a locator beacon on.
Yeah.
So thank God I had one. They go in a pocket. In my case, I had in my pocket, it's my base layer right here on my chest. All day long, the beacons transmit the same signal. Then if someone goes down, the group pulls theirs out, switches over to search mode, leaving one beacon in transmit mode, which of course in this case is my beacon. So the beacons tell them which direction to walk and how far it is, and they closed in on my location within minutes. Nice. They found my fingers sticking out of the snow. Oh. But how do you find a pair of fingers on a mountainside full of snow without some kind of guidance? You likely don't, at least not in time. So I believe that avalanche beacon of training saved my life. So they closed in. They dug down I was down about a full arm's depth. I'm a pretty tall guy. I was down a full arm's depth. They dug all the way down to find my body. They found my ears, nose, mouth just packed with snow. Oof. They knew, hey, we got to get his airway opened up. So they took a finger and shook the snow in my mouth. I got my airway opened up, and I was breathing and making like a lot of weird wheezing and groaning, weird noises, and I was fully unconscious. And so they knew that, hey, we got to get help. We have to get help right away. This is bad. So that my best friend Tim rushed to the top of the ridge with a cell phone to call for helicopter. And about that same time, it just started snowing hard. I mean, I guess you could say it. We always say the weather decided was going to replenish the snow. It slid off the mountain. It started just pounding snow. And so my friend's up there on a ridge top with a cell phone. He got a call out in the snowstorm. He got a helicopter en route, but there was a perfect lake bed right by the avalanche side. They could have landed, but they flew as far as they could in the snowstorm, rejected them, and they just couldn't fly any further. So they'd already as a backup plan, they already dispatched a ground crew headed my direction with a sled behind a snowmobile. And so my friends had to go there and cover me up and watch me lay there unconscious and wheezing and moaning and making weird noises for 90 minutes, an hour and a half, waiting for ground crew to arrive. We were way back in the backcountry. When ground crew arrived, immediately said, man, we've got to make an attempt to get a helicopter out here. So they made a second attempt to fly. They still couldn't quite make it. This time they made it to Brundage Ski Hill, to the ski resort. Yeah. And they landed there in the parking lot, and then they got me on the sled and strapped me on them and transported me to the parking lot there, which took quite a while. Got me loaded up in the helicopter. The snow broke enough to get the helicopter in the sky and route to Boise, out of the capital city of Idaho. They landed in Boise at St. Alphonsus Medical Center 5 hours from the time of the avalanche. Man. And right on the helipad, they took the gurney out of the helicopter, and right there, I stopped breathing. I died. Essentially, I died. And they rushed around, resuscitated me, got me breathing again, and pushed me to ER to discover the avalanche had just brutally punished me. They found a broken neck. C4, 5, and 6 were crushed. Compound fractured left femur, blew my left femur in half. There's like bone fragments on the X-ray. Crushed left rib cage, where it hit the tree so hard apparently, and it literally hit so hard it broke the top 2 left ribs right off the sternum, off the middle bone. Oh my gosh! Caved in my left lung, and then they're kind of puzzled, like, why am I unconscious? Why am I so out of it? And so they discovered hematomas on both sides of my brain, which is blood clotting, blood pooling, brain damage on both sides of my brain, and some broken facial bones as well. Yeah. So they told my family, they said, we're not yet going to spend the money to treat Matt's injuries because it doesn't appear there's anybody else survived the night. And obviously, by the grace of God, I survived the night. But the next day would hold what we always kind of refer to as a reality check. They had to determine, okay, Matt's essentially in a comatose state. He's unresponsive to the world. He's breathing because the machine's doing so for him. But is there any hope outside of that? And so they do what's called painful stimuli, because even in a comatose state, your body should show some indication you're at least aware of pain. Yeah. They poke you and prod you and shake you and just kind of do weird things that they dig under your fingernails and weird things like that, right? Woo. Hopefully get some response from you, showing some indication you're aware of that pain. Yeah. They got nothing. Oh. And so the doc said, he met my family and said, look, it does not look good here. I'm going to try one last thing. He said, I'm going to hook a brain scan on Matt. With the brain scan in place, I'll again inflict pain in him. And then he wanted to say, look, if the scan doesn't show some kind of response, we're in big trouble here. He said, if there's any hope here at all, his brain has to respond to our input. And so they hooked the scan up and began to again poke me and prod me and shake me and move me. And the scan showed nothing to get excited about. And then the doctor tried one last thing he knew would confirm it. He picked up my broken leg, my shattered leg, had not been treated yet, picked it up off the table a little ways and just let it free fall. Wow. Oh. So, I mean, I don't got to tell anybody that would cause pain, right?
No, yeah, that's.
And the scan didn't show anything to be excited about. So with confidence, he marched out to my family. He said, I'm sorry. He said, short of a miracle, Matt will not be with us anymore. He said he's technically alive because the machine's breathing for him. So his heart's beating. But as near as I can tell outside of that, he's essentially brain dead. Wow. So if you pull the cord, he's gone. And my family are awesome people. My dad's an amazing man of faith. And they just said, no, we're not willing to believe that yet. My dad said, I respect your opinion, but I want a second opinion. I'm not ready to go there yet. What he said was, he said, I know if Matt were in my shoes, he would never give up on me this soon. I want a second opinion. That's right. And so the doctor's arranging that. In the meantime, my phone calls, texts, emails went across the nation with one message: pray. Yep. Matt's dying, pray. In fact, even across the world, because my mom's family are world missionaries.
Oh,
And they had
wow.
teams in India and I think South Africa and a couple other countries praying for me as well. So
Nice.
there's prayers going up across the world. My dad also got some of my closest friends together from the wedding area and went down to the room and laid hands on me. And basically at this point, just crying out, begging God for mercy because Matt's dead, right?
Yeah.
And they've been in there about an hour and a half and started to accept reality that they probably better say their goodbyes, right? I mean, there's no hope.
Right.
And a good friend of mine, John Heston, who also wrote quite a bit in the professional films. He was in the room. He spoke up and said, guys, I don't know why, but I had this weird feeling like Matt knows we're in the room, like he knows we're here. Why don't we see what happens if we try to get him to respond? It's a good shot if we try. So they agreed, and they got John right in my face and yelled loud, Matt, John, if you can hear me, raise your right leg. And I couldn't raise my leg, but to their shock, they saw it move. They saw that he tried. It moved a little bit. He tried it. And so they played around a little bit more and got me to lightly squeeze a hand.
Nice.
And so they rushed me in, of course, to get a doctor to tell him what had happened. He thought we were wasting his time because he just had nothing for my brain. But a few minutes later, they got me to squeeze his hand. And so he didn't even know what to say. He just kind of left the room. I mean, to gather himself to just discuss the next steps, right? And he eventually told my family, he said, look, I know it's exciting. That's some signs of life. I know that he's made a response. But he said, look, he's in a comatose state. And I don't know if he's coming out.
Wow.
And he said, on top of that, if he does, when he does, he will not be the same Matt you once knew because he's got, looking at the scans of his spine, there's a very good chance Matt will never walk again. So on top of that, as near as I can tell, looking at the scans of his brain, he'll never be mentally normal again. He won't be the same person he once knew. And so my family had to watch me lay there unconscious, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing the condition of my body and brain, if and when I was ever coming out of this thing, right?
Yeah.
And 10 days into it, something very special happened. They'll never be forgotten in my lifetime or theirs. I'm a father. Today I'm a father to 7 kids because I married into some bonus kids. But
Nice.
at that point in time, I was a father to 3 boys, and my boys were very young at that point in time. They'd not been allowed to see dad yet. 10 days into this thing,
Sure.
yeah,
Understandable.
Those and wires would have been like scary at the least, right? They were very young.
Yeah.
So they're told, Daddy got hurt real bad. He just needs to sleep for a while. But thinking I was sleeping though, they're told we can pick up the phone though. We'll call your daddy. We'll put a cell phone in his ear. You guys can talk to your daddy while he sleeps and see if he can hear you talk to him. I thought about that for a minute, and my oldest boy Connor said, "No, we don't really want to call daddy and talk to him." And their mom's like, "Well, why?" He said, "Because we want to call him and sing to him."
Nice.
Here's why. Before the avalanche, I used to play guitar. I was a musician. Used to play a lot, play and sing. My left arm today is completely paralyzed from the shoulder down. It's totally dead. So I cannot play guitar anymore. I miss my guitar way worse than I miss my snowmobile. But
yeah,
I still play drums with one hand, but I can't play guitar. And so I used to play a lot. My boys would sing and dance. They love the sound of my guitar. And so Connor says, we want to sing. And their mom says, okay, what song should we sing? He said, our favorite song, Never Let Go. It's a song by Matt Redman called You Never Let Go. And the chorus of the song sings out, oh no, you never let go. Through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go. Every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go. Lord, you never let go of me.
I love that song. I love that. I love that. That song is one of my favorites. That's such a good one.
Incredible song.
That's awesome.
So they called me and they put a cell phone in my ear, and my boys saying "You never let go" to their daddy. Here's an incredible part. I really feel like a miracle happened during that song because I didn't just rise up and wake up at that point in time, but from that point forward, I began to show more signs of life, began to show more response to stimuli, more response to commands, and just began to show more like there was hope, right? But a lot of time passed. It wasn't until day 41 they said I was officially out of comatose state.
Wow.
And when I came out, the doctor was right. I was not the same person. It was like very scary for my family. They gave me a pen, asked me to write my name. I couldn't write my name. I couldn't even write the alphabet. I couldn't write any letters. I could write nothing but scribbly lines.
Yeah.
I could barely talk. I had a very shallow vocabulary. I was really confused. Didn't recognize people in the room very often. It was really weird. So they had to just go, okay, this is it. We're just going to have to battle through this. And thank God my family was incredible. They never left my side. And in fact, my brother John was in the Wyoming natural gas fields at that point working. And he used to work 10 days on, 5 days off, 10 on, 5 off on a consistent rotation.
Yeah.
He made a commitment from the day one to drive from Wyoming to Boise. It's an 8-hour round trip, or a little over 8 hours, to spend every one of his days off with me for as long as it took. So
Nice.
he go to work early on his 10th day, work his full route on the field, then leave for Boise and drive straight to spend a full 5 days with me. So incredible.
Man.
But they were very supportive and never stopped believing. And then I got out of bed into a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, and eventually began to do physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cognitive therapy.
We can let's tackle some of that on the other side of the break, man. I don't want to spoil the whole story. Let's leave them in suspense for a minute, guys. This is the good stuff, man. This is like as if there's not enough. Like I'm like on the edge of my seat already just from this, but I can't. I don't want you to go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Please stick around to hear the rest of this story. We're going to go to a break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, who actually, it's funny that you say you got the bonus kids and got married. Like our sponsor is incredible. It's called Dunamis Marriages. So I can't wait for you to hear from them. It's a great organization. So we're gonna hear from them real quick, and then we'll be right back. So stick around for the rest of this story, everybody. We'll see you in a couple minutes. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor, Dunamis Marriages. And now, struggling marriages often lead to a dramatic sense of disconnection from your spouse that can seem suffocating. Even if your marriage is doing pretty well, there is a way for you to thrive no matter what. Dunamis Marriages believes that God designed marriage to be a lifelong, heart-connected journey. And they're here to help you get there at Dunamis Marriages. Located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, their faith-based marriage intensive has an 83% success rate. I'm going to say that again. 83% success rate. Guiding couples through deep emotional healing and lasting transformation. Why is that important? Because most marriage counseling has a less than 10% success rate, leaving broken hearts and marriages in its wake. Led by Dr. Pauline Dillard, who brings over 42 years of marital wisdom, these marriage intensives are different. Typical marriage counseling is more of a once a week for an hour type of thing that can last for years and really end up getting you nowhere. The intensive model that Dr. Pauline uses brings couples together. Each session lasts about 2 to 3 hours and is conducted over 5 to 6 sessions. The time that you invest in a marriage intensive will combine biblical truth with proven psychological principles to restore communication, trust, and intimacy. At Dunamis Marriages, they don't just treat symptoms, they equip you with the tools to build a thriving, Christ-centered marriage. If you're ready to break free from frustration and rekindle your relationship God's way, act now. Visit DunamisMarriages.com today. That's DUNAMAS marriages.com. And take that first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling marriage. Build your marriage on a solid foundation and enjoy your spouse like you never thought possible.
Are you a change agent? You're going to love the Superpowers for Good show. I'm Devin Thorpe. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 Eastern, I host an inspiring changemaker on Achieve TV. Join us right here on E360 TV.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Matt, thanks for being here, man. This is so cool. I'm still kind of in shock from the first part of the story. For those of you that didn't get to hear the first part of the story, you're not going to want to miss it. So if you're watching on YouTube or let's see, if you're watching any of these places, really, if you're watching Facebook, YouTube, E360. By the way, speaking of that, if you are on Facebook and YouTube or YouTube watching this, you can comment and ask a question like, hey, Matt, or like, oh my gosh, Matt, I want you to speak for my organization, or I want you to come tell your story. We got to hear more from you. This is one place that you can do that. You can definitely, or so Facebook or YouTube, but then also obviously Matt's website, which is right here. And so when people go to this website, Matt, what are they going to find?
Well, they're going to find my story, obviously, but they're going to find video of the actual avalanche that day. They're going to find some highlights of what I used to do when I rode at the pro level. They're going to find some highlights of me speaking. They're going to find some pictures of me and my kids. They're going to find video of my family, and they're going to just be able to connect with me in a real way. So I'm willing to share my raw life and everything with them. So it's
love it.
I think it'll be really, really neat to connect on there. Also on there, you get access to social media channels and places to really connect, and emails, and then my direct phone number's on there. I'm really an open book. So
I love that, man. Yeah. So seriously, everybody. Okay. As if you haven't heard enough to make you want to reach out to them. We still got a little time left on the show here. So anytime during the show, comment on Facebook, comment on YouTube, go to the website, get in touch. So we left off. We left off in the story before the break. You were kind of ramping up to. It was you're out of the hospital. It's been 41 days in a coma, and you're coming out of that. They told you wouldn't walk again, which is obviously not true. Doctors can be wrong a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like they they don't know everything. I feel like they're obligated to give you the worst case scenario. I think that's
it is kind of their job to give you what they consider out. It is kind of their job to give you worst case scenario in a way. You know? They have to.
They have to. But you are nowhere near the worst case scenario. I mean, you're walking, you're talking, you said you've got some paralysis in your arm, but I mean, to come out of what you've gone through and still even being here doing this, I'm like, it's just, I'm floored. So what was the turning point that was like, you realized you weren't going to let this accident, like, no, we're not listening to the doctors. We're not listening to this worst case scenario nonsense. We're carrying on, we're pushing through, and we're going to be okay. Like, what was that for you?
Well, I don't know if there's any specific exact turning point, but throughout the whole thing, when they began to give me the prognosis, I had a deep inner peace that was not going to be the case. Like when I came out of the coma and I was in a wheelchair, I knew I was going to get out. I had like a deep inner peace. I'm going to get out of this thing. I'm going to walk in. And so I pushed myself beyond belief to get there. Went through physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cognitive therapy. I was hospitalized for 88 straight days, do nothing but therapy and rest and procedures and surgeries and get myself well again. But every time they give me a prognosis, I just felt a really deep peace from God that I wasn't done yet. And so I wasn't like I was rude about not believing their prognosis, but I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, go say what you want to say, but I'm not done yet. It's like I could just feel my own body. I'm not done yet. And I think here's the danger. Had I believed the prognosis, I might have lived that as my reality, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to just believe in it. You have to really dig, even if you're not a believer and don't connect with God, connect with your inner self enough to know, hey, I'm not done yet. I can dig deeper. I got something more. And so I kept giving more and going more. And I was somewhat stubborn, and I never laid low when they told me to lay low, and I never stopped when they told me to stop. But I mean, I think it's paid off. And so after 88 days hospitalized, I got to come home. And honestly, coming home was more challenging than being in the hospital. I didn't think it would be. I was excited to come home. It was amazing, but
yeah,
I had to come back to a world that did not know me anymore. And I essentially did not know my world, because I left that world as one of the best athletes of my kind and probably the world, right? And I came back barely. When I came home from the hospital, I was barely walking with a cane. I was just hobbling along, like falling down all the time, and barely. I should have been in a wheelchair, but I refused it. So I was in a cane.
Sounds about right.
And it was just really hard to accept reality that I'd come home a different man entirely, and it's not going to the battle is far from over. But I just kept pushing and kept going and kept giving. It was almost good for me to hear a bad prognosis. That's my motivator. It's my fuel to fuel my fire. Like, okay, bring it on, right?
Yeah.
I'll never do that, and watch me do it. And so, but what I come home with, the worst injury by far the worst injury was phantom nerve pain.
Yes.
So, and I still have some today, and that's kind of one of the invisible conditions that people don't know about. You can't explain phantom nerve pain. You can't try to make people realize what it is unless they've experienced it, because it's so intense. And so, because the problem is, phantom pain is technically not real, but it's very real, right?
Yeah.
False signal from your spinal cord to your brain. This says your hand is burning and intense. It hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so even though my hand's dead, I can't feel my arm, can't move it, can't do anything with it. My hand burns nonstop. And phantom pain is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't massage it, can't reposition it, can't rub it, can't do nothing for it, because it's phantom, right?
Because it's not there anyway. Technically, right?
Technically not there. But then what they do to try to medicate it is also very ineffective, because again, you're medicating a false source.
Yeah.
And so they, at one point when I came home, I was on 8 hydrocodone, 750, 7.5, 500s, 3 Oxycontin, and a few Lyrica nerve pain medication.
Oh my gosh.
Just in 24 hours every day I was doing that. I was just drugged out of my mind. I was essentially stoned, right? Because I had to be, just to be able to function, because it was such bad pain.
Yeah.
And I'm very bullheaded, so I kicked the Oxycontin cold turkey, which I really don't recommend that.
Ooh, no, don't do that.
Wild ride of withdrawals and sweats and everything else. But I got rid of that, and I cut the hydros back to 6, and I kept Lyrica back. I kept Lyrica at 3 because it's non-narcotic, but it was intense. I had to have it.
Yeah.
And at one point, all they could tell me for a remedy, again, here's the prognosis: I had long-term medication.
Wow.
Long-term medication.
Jeez.
And I'm going, I can't live like this long-term. I'm a drug addict, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I would wake up at like middle of the night, like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have these weird pulsations that would happen periodically, where they would like drive, like burn, and then pull back, then burn intensely and pull back, like these weird nerve pulsations.
Yeah.
But what the pain is like is when you go outside and your hand gets cold, you come back inside, it gets hot too fast, that intense burning.
Tingling. Yeah.
20 in the ballpark, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like this, to where sometimes I would honestly cry to where my pillowcase got damp from the tears.
Yeah.
And one time I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with these pains again, and all I could hear was the doctor's voice saying, long-term medication, long-term medication. And I physically yelled at God. I screamed at him and said, you didn't get the job done right the first time. It's time to finish this crap. I had already planned out how I was going to do it. I got my snowmobile gear bag out of the closet, began to piece on all my riding gear, but again, pull my pants in place and my boots on. And my plan was to gear up, head to toe all my riding gear. I was driving some at this point, so I was going to drive down to the nearby tall bridge over the Snake River, put the helmet from the avalanche back of my head, the bright orange helmet, and jump off that bridge all geared up. And with that, in that condition, there's no doubt I would have died, if nothing else, from drowning, right?
Sure.
But I was very serious about doing so. I was done. I was hopeless. I'm not going to live as a drug addict. I'm not going to live because even in that much medication, I was still in pain.
Yeah.
And so I got sat on the bed, began to pull my jersey in place to continue getting dressed. And I guess you could say that God knew what would stop me not dead, but alive in my tracks.
Yeah.
He brought back a thought right then in that moment. It was a thought of my middle son, Ethan. Ethan's one of those kids. He's 18 now, but he's just a precious personality. He's awesome. He's super good sense of humor now and stuff like that. But at that point in time, he was very young. He was, but he's still a really fun kid. And he loved doggies. And he didn't have his own dog. He has his own dog now, but at that point in time, he didn't have his own dog. And his grandparents' dog, Sadie, he called her his dog. He took care of Sadie like she was a black lab, and he used to feed her and walk her, and he just loved her, right? Well, recently before the suicide thought, Sadie had died of old age. And Ethan was just completely just devastated, crushed. Like, how can my dog be gone? He was so young that he didn't really understand the permanence of death, you know? And so one day, like 5 days after the dog died, I found him crying by himself in the bedroom, and I went in there and nudged up to him and said, buddy, what's wrong? He said, Daddy, my doggy's gone. She's not going to come back. I said, buddy, it's okay. She's in heaven. You get to see her again someday. And what he'd said and what the thought that God brought back right in the middle of suicide was Ethan had said, but Daddy, I don't want her to be in heaven. I want her to be here with me. Yep. And I have to make a bold suggestion, and you can call me crazy, but I think it's the only time in my life that I've ever heard the audible voice of God. I heard an audible voice that night in the midst of suicide speak, Matt. And it's still small but powerful voice said, Matt, his doggy's gone. He's crushed. What happens if his daddy's gone?
Right.
And I just began to weep, just gush in tears down my face, and fell back in the bed and erased that plan from the drawing board. No way. I mean, here I am about to commit suicide and relieve myself of my pain, right? Yeah. Or leave my boys a lifetime pain missing their daddy. And so thank God I didn't take my life. Didn't take my boy's daddy away, because 10 months later, I found a surgeon in Chicago who had basically he and his father had pioneered a surgery to fix that. So they had to go to the spinal cord and cut some nerves with an electric needle, and the nerve pain's still there, but it's so manageable now that I take a light dose of a non-narcotic nerve pain med, and that's it. So
praise God, that's amazing, man. That's so cool. Life, you know? Holy cow, man! What a story. That's the stuff that stories are made of, man. That's amazing. You're off all the narcotics.
Yeah, I take nothing narcotic now. Nothing.
And
I still qualify to, but I refuse to. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? There was a year in my life after a couple brain surgery. I had to have 2 brain surgeries within 24 hours of each other in 2014, and ended up with nonstop migraines for a year. And it was pretty bad. It was not great. And I kept, nothing they gave me did anything. Not right. Oxy, not Vicodin, nothing touched these things. I don't know where they came from, but they were invincible against any medication. And the only thing that worked was a couple natural things that I did that were outside the medical world, because the medical world wants you to be on drugs in that scenario. And the doctors literally looked at me and said, the surgeon literally looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do for you. I guess you're just going to have to live with headaches, So at that point, it's up to you. It's up to me, right? Yep. You find what you need to do. You advocate for you to get done what you need to get done, and that's what you had to do.
What I've learned too is going through that, and still going through it today, is that all pain comes through your brain, right? Because it goes from your spinal cord to your brain and tells you your pain, right? Uh-huh. And so if you can train your mind to not think about it, not process it, not talk about it, not whine about it, you can literally cut that by I'd say almost 50%, honestly.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Because even today, even us talking about it right now, I'm not worried about this, but you and I talking about the pain right now makes my nerve pain worse because we're talking about it, right?
Right, yeah.
Throughout the whole day, I don't ever talk about it. No one ever hears me say, oh my gosh. Sometimes my wife does, because my wife's my only go-to, right? But otherwise, nobody else hears me say, oh my gosh, I'm so much pain, this burning pain is so terrible. Oh, I don't do that. And even my boy Connor's home from college right now on spring break, and he was just saying, earlier today how, sometimes he forgets that I can't do certain things because I don't act like I'm messed up, right? He's like, Dad, can you grab that for me? I'm like, well, no, I can't lift that in my hand. He goes, yeah, I forget all about it, which is exactly what I want it to be. I don't want people to always be thinking that I'm unable to do things. I want them to remember me as a normal person. Yeah. And so it's my new normal, but it's my normal, so.
Man, yes, exactly. So much of this, this is bringing tears to my eyes, because so much of this is making me go back to some of the times over the last 10 years. I mean, 4 brain surgeries in the last 10 years, and it's been up and down and up and down, and different things have come up. And because when you go poking around in the brain, you never know, right?
Right. Well, you and I are clearly want to stay connected because we get each other. We understand.
Yeah, and so this is man, yeah, I can so relate to some of that, and it's I'm so ecstatic that you are where you are right now, and that you're able to do what you're able to do, and that you're doing it, and you're glorifying God in it, and you're not letting the world tell you no. So
well, you think about the fact that they told me I would likely never be mentally normal ever again. And I've written a book with no assistance, and I didn't have a ghostwriter, didn't have any.
Get
I
out of here.
had some help with editing, but that's about it. I'm a pretty good writer as it is, but
Jeez.
it's a miracle that I was able to do that. I was able to publish it. I'm able
Yeah.
to market it. I even participate a lot of the building in my website and a lot of the content there. I mean, I feel blessed because I know I haven't forgotten what it was like when I came out of that coma going, oh my gosh, who am I?
Right.
This is whoa, because I had long-term memory. So I knew who I was before, right? But I was like, I'm not that same man anymore. So I'm still not the same man. It's kind of like we talk about the invisible condition.
Yeah.
People look at me and go, yeah, he's normal. No, I mean, you find normal, right? We ask my wife what she thinks about that, but
right, seriously.
But seriously, what is normal? I know it's like I have a normal, but it's my new normal, right?
Normal is a very relative term, honestly, because it's a new normal. Every time you come into something different, it's the new normal. So,
well, and so I live with a TBI. I still have really bad short-term memory loss.
Yep.
I really have a lot of times hard times multitasking or processing lots of thoughts at the same time, or I'm emotionally a little bit immature at times. So my wife is aware of that. And she's cool about that. She's an ICU nurse, so she deals with brain injured patients all the time. So she has a lot of understanding of my condition, which is great.
Yeah.
But even my phantom nerve pain, nobody would ever know I'm in phantom pain.
No.
Because it's invisible. I don't talk about it. I don't make it visible. And so
exactly.
But again, I don't want to make it visible. I don't want people to notice, because if they notice, it means I notice. And if I notice, it hurts worse and it's noticeable and it's frustrating. And
right.
If I talked about my brain all the time, talked about my memory all the time, talked about how much it sucks, then it would suck, right?
Yeah.
And if I talked about my pain all the time, talked about how much it hurts and how it never stops hurting, it would never stop hurting. And that's exactly what you do. You create a reality for yourself that doesn't have to be there if you don't want it to be. So
it's true, man. Well, I feel like we're at a good break. We're gonna go to one more commercial break just for a couple minutes, and then we got some cool stuff to close out the show. And so in the last few minutes, so everybody stick around. This is amazing. I love this story. This is so cool. And by the way, I promise I will have Matt's QR code up during the third segment. I totally forgot to put it up there in a second. So if you noticed, it'll be back. Don't worry. So everybody stick around, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Hey everybody, Craig Tomanini here, founder and CEO of Ask Craig T, and I wanted to do a quick reminder about our podcast every Friday, 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube and on all of our social media platforms, so be sure you tune in. Don't miss all the valuable information we're going to give you about how to scale your business using technology.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey friends, this is Ben Hummel. I'm the host of the Genius Way Show, where you'll learn to access your inner gifts, talents, and callings and how to express them out in the world. Join me here each Sunday at noon Pacific time on the Achieve TV network, right here on E360 TV.
Hey everybody, we're back. And by the way, I want to throw this out here before we get started. I want to put this put my email on the screen here, and just if you're watching and you know that there's somebody that that has an amazing message that they might want to get out on our show, if it's somebody that wants to advertise maybe, or somebody that has a product or service that they think our audience would love, please send me an email. I would love to talk to them. If you know of a guest that would be amazing, I'd love to talk to them too. I am always looking for people with incredible stories like Matt's to be on the show. So definitely reach out. And if you if you're watching on any of these outlets, you can absolutely comment on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get back in touch with you. So definitely. And there is the QR code that I said I would put up there. There we go. All right. This is the best way to get in touch with Matt right here. If you want him to speak, or if you want to, anything you want to, his book, your book's on there. Everything's on your website, right?
Yeah, and it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Google Books, all that stuff. So yeah, piece of cake to find it. So
perfect. Love it. So with the what we were talking about, the new normal now, right? Every time something happens, and here's the new normal. Mm-hmm. So you obviously have an amazing family that is rolling right with you in this new normal. What's been the coolest part of that? I mean, I know I've experienced some amazing grace and love and stuff with my family through some of the crazy stuff we've done. Talk about that, man. How's your family doing with all this?
I think just for one, it really brought our family closer together. Like we've always been a good family and a tight family. My parents were divorced. I was divorced shortly before the avalanche, the year before the avalanche. So my parents were divorced the same year. So wow. We went through some brokenness at that point. And so, but nowadays, of course, we all get along great, and my parents are fine. Everything. There's never been any drama or anything like that, so it's great. But
good.
But what this really did is it brought our family close together. It really just brought us back to we realized how much we love each other and care for each other, and there's some special moments that have happened where I've generally speaking, I've taken some of all my family members have gone to me to one or two or three different motivational speaking events, and they got to experience that with me, and so it's been really cool. And then they just have all of us have a new empathy for invisible conditions, right? Something somebody's going through, or anything that any kind of pain people are suffering, we get it. And so even for me and all of us really, but me especially, I can sit by the side of somebody's bed at the hospital and have an incredible conversation with them because they feel like, all right, this guy gets me. He laid in my bed for 88 days. He understands me. And so but my mom's the same way. She ministers to a lot of parents now who are going through things like that because she quit her job and moved to Boise and sat by my bed for 61 out of the 88 days or 66, something like that. It was crazy.
Wow.
So she got to ride through the pain with me, but she did it for her son, and so she's able to minister to a lot of hurting moms now. Has a whole different empathy and a whole different approach now than she ever had before. So that's been a blessing. But even though I was divorced before the avalanche, I'm remarried now to an incredible woman. We are best friends. We're both very connected to God. We both pray together every single day, twice a day. We study the Bible together. We raise our kids that way, and I gained 3 bonus kids, which I'm right on the tail end of adopting them right now.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited for that. We accidentally had one together in our 40s, but it's okay. We love it. He's amazing. So we have a 2-year-old and a 20-year-old all at the same time. So
there's no accident. It's called that's another bonus child.
God doesn't have accidents, so no. But he's
my mom, my grandparents did that. My grandparents had my mom and her 2 sisters within just a few years. There's 3 kids. Boom, 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 and then 18 years later came my uncle. So it happens, man. It's all good. So
we love because it's the one sibling that they all share.
Nice.
So he's been like a binding factor in our family, so it's neat. So.
Right on, man. Well, hey, we got a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes left here before we're done. Is there in 2 minutes or less? What would you like to leave our audience with today?
I guess the best thing I do for you, leave you with people have asked me at times, like, what's the most fundamental concept in your successful recovery? Like, you pick one thing, what would it be? And every time it's without question, focus on things you can change. Because I can't change the avalanche, right? I can't change how bad it hurt me. I can't change that it crushed me. I can't change my paralyzed arm. I can't change my broken neck and bent neck and pain. I can't change those things, right? But if I waste all my time, energy, passion, emotion, crying and whining about things I cannot change, I have no energy left to change the things I can change. So I would ask you to examine your life today and say, all right, where in my life am I focused on something I cannot change? Because if you can't impact it and can't change it, can't do anything about it, then you can't afford to waste energy on it. So I would just encourage you to harness all your time, harness all your energy and effort and emotion, and focus it only in areas you can have an impact. And I think it will radically change your life.
Man, that is so true. I had a guest. I just recorded a show with a guest that's gonna air the show before yours on the air, and he was talking about something like that, and he said, I said, how do you do it on the hard days? He says, it was his daughter that we were talking about on the show, and he says, my daughter doesn't have bad days. She has bad minutes. Exactly. Why let it ruin your entire day? You have a few bad minutes, and then it gets better, and you have the rest of the day to be good. So
I use the word moments, but it's the same thing,
Yeah. Exactly.
Every human being has bad moments, but allowing those moments to wreck your entire day is a choice, right? It's 100% choice.
It's 100% a choice. Yeah. I tell people all the time, look, your attitude is the only thing you have 100% control over, so don't let it ruin your entire day.
David Foster the late David Foster was a pastor at a big church out in Nashville called the Gathering. He once said, your attitude is more honest and more consistent than your words. It functions as the megaphone of your soul. And I was like, whoa, that's deep, but it's true. I mean, literally
hits you right there, doesn't it?
It changes everything. Everything it oozes out of you is how's your attitude, right? What kind of day you have? How's your attitude? How you approach people? How's your attitude? How you do a transaction in business? How's your attitude, right? It's all about attitude. So,
man, that's amazing. I got to go look that quote up again and put it somewhere right in front of me in my mirror or something in the bathroom. That's awesome. Well, hey, Matt, I'm so thankful that we got to do this. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your attitude and for your perseverance and for your family and for everything, man. Thank you for being here today. This has been an honor.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is great. So,
absolutely, man. Thank you. I'll talk to you in a minute. God, that was cool. I love this guy. He's cool. He's got to come back another time. What do you think? You want him to come back? I think it'd be fun. We can have him come back. If he writes, maybe we'll write another book. That'd be cool. All right, everybody. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, I'm hoping that you're commenting and like, hey, how can I get Matt to come speak at my organization? Or how do I get his book? How do I, I can relate. Here's my story. All of that's awesome. We want to hear all of that. So definitely comment. Definitely check out our sponsor, Dunamis Marriages. And one other thing I want to just throw out there, if you guys have noticed here, I'm going to just get rid of this so it doesn't get in the way. And I want to show you something. If you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, but these are pretty cool. And if you want a mug, just let me know. We'll send you one. It's pretty cool. You can buy right there at the QR code. So it's got all the outlets that we're on, so you never forget to. You always remember to watch the show, and set the reminders and all that stuff. So anyway, all right, everybody. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time watching, thank you so much for being here. If you've been watching the whole time, then we appreciate you. We're so thankful for you, for all our viewers and for all our sponsors and everything. I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. And so have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next show, which actually will be on Friday, April 11th. So join us on the 11th. We'll see you then.